Classy fielding, power hitting Brooks Robinson, Oriole third baseman.
This city loves him. Like, you know, New York's got the Statue of Liberty, St. Louis got the Gateway Arch. In Baltimore, we got Brooks Robinson. The great plays, the diving plays.
Robbie grabs the ball with both hands and makes a perfect letter-high throw.
The most fabulous baseball player I've ever seen.
Up steps Brooks Robinson.
He was a heck of a hitter.
That's the way to hit that ball, Brooks.
Fantastic. Does it every summer.
The bounce, the enthusiasm he played the game with. Nobody could take the smile off Brooks's face. He just loved the game, loved playing it.
Brooks Robinson belonged in heaven, not here on the ground, because the way he plays third, I've never seen nothing like it.
They call Brooks Robinson the human vacuum cleaner, and now you'll see why. Robinson comes in, makes a sensational play for the third out.
Baseball fans learned to expect the unexpected from Brooks Robinson, both on the field.
Brooks just made some plays that I didn't think were quite possible by anybody else.
And off of it.
You never had a bad day when you were with Brooks because he never had a bad day. Never saw Brooks with a fan that didn't walk away feeling better about themselves.
From World Series heroics,
The first sweep for the American League since 1950.
to everyday fan encounters.
Give me a high five, five more, all right.
Robinson made extraordinary moments feel commonplace. He arrived in Baltimore just a year after the Orioles franchise did, and after a 23-year Hall of Fame career, he never left.
Brooks just was there. I mean, he was always there, you know, and the nicest guy in the world. Very rarely do you find somebody that where nobody ever says anything but nice things. He's one of the greatest ever, and both on and off the field, and you can't say much more than that about anybody.
In sports, there are heroes who set records and those who create fan bases. Brooks Robinson did both as the centerpiece of the Orioles' most dominant era and the city's most beloved baseball player of all time.
He was a great baseball player, a league MVP, a World Series MVP, an All-Star MVP. What was it, 18 All-Stars, 16 straight Gold Gloves? He had all of that, but that's not the whole story unless you live in Baltimore. He probably spoke to your kid's Cub Scout group, at your church social. Brooks was everywhere. He could never say no.
He's the player that generations of Orioles fans tell their children about.
My grandfather, diehard Dodger fan, but always told me stories about the human vacuum cleaner.
I know my grandpa would always tell me he was his favorite Oriole to watch back in the day.
And name them after.
There must be 1,000 Brooks in town named after Brooks Robinson. Gordon Beard, longtime AP writer, had the line, they came out with a Reggie bar in New York. Gordon's line was, he said, in New York they named candy bars after their heroes. In Baltimore, we name our kids after Brooks.
In September of 2022, I sat down with Brooks Robinson for his final television interview. He looked back at the moments, players, and fans that contributed to his Hall of Fame career. Well, Brooks, first of all, thank you so much for coming by today. I can say it's a thrill for me, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Can we go back to growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and playing baseball in Little Rock, and how the Orioles found you there?
There was a gentleman named Lindsey Deal. He played for Paul Richards in Atlanta, and Richards was managing in the minors then, and they went to church. Lindsey Deal and his family went to the church that I went to. And I played 4 years of American Legion baseball, and so Lindsey Deal wrote a letter to Paul Richards, say, I got a kid here who has been a pretty good player here in Little Rock. Can you send someone in to take a look at him? When I graduated from high school, I had a tough choice between Cincinnati and Baltimore. And I really chose Baltimore because they were brand new, and I signed with them.
So you're 18, 19 years old in 1955 and 1956. You played for the tall Texan, Paul Richards. What were those early days like?
Well, it was fun, believe me.
See you take a shot to right field now. Man on first base. Just take a shot out there, Brooks. That's the boy.
That's it, Robbie.
Hey, look around there.
I got 2 hits the first game I ever played in. Knocked in a big run. It was Chuck Stobbs pitching for Washington. And I got 2 hits. I can remember running down to the Southern Hotel where I was staying, called my mom and dad. I said, Mom, Dad, guess what? First game's two 2 hits. This is my cup of tea. Well, I went 0 for 18 after that, and I learned a good lesson. I knew I was going to play in the minor leagues for a few years, and I was up and down. I had an Army obligation, I had a knee operation, so I got to play, though. That's the main thing. You know, I started out as a second baseman. I played all my American Legion career at second, signed as a second baseman, played 50 games at York at second, and then George Stoller, my manager, and Paul Richards really felt like I'd be better suited for third. I'm not very fast. Even Boog Powell's got more stolen bases than me. He doesn't let me forget it. And so they moved me out. I have a reflex position, and 3 or 4 yards most of the time, and that's, you see the ball, you get it or you don't. And so the move to third base was the biggest plus I've ever had.
Brooks Robinson, the man with a magic mitt and great hands. The American League's annual Golden Glove winner explains his game-saving play on Rod Gaspar.
Well, I think the secret of the play is to keep in mind that you cannot look at the runner, and if the ball has stopped or is coming to a halt, always use your bare hand. And consequently, when I feel the ball with my bare hand, I always come up and throw overhand.
I was real fortunate in my career. I got to meet Jackie Robinson at a couple of golf tournaments, and Jesse Owens came to our camp and tried to show us how to get out of the box. You know, and I was thrilled to meet Jesse Owens. But I'd go on the second field we had, and I'd work on different things, backhanding. That's usually the toughest play for a third baseman. Bunts, barehanding, catching with the glove and throwing. So there's a lot of things, but I loved it.
When we come back,
when Frank and I hit back-to-back home runs in the first inning of the first game, I think that gave everyone a lift, you know, knowing, hey, we can play with these guys.
Another Robinson arrives, and the Orioles climb to the top of the American League begins. More on that next. The Orioles and Brooks Robinson arrived to the major leagues just one season apart. The Orioles in 1954 and Robinson in 1955. And together they began their ascent to the top of the American League. In 1960, Robinson's first All-Star and Gold Glove season propelled the Orioles to their first winning record. And by 1964, he was recognized as the American League Most Valuable Player. In 1966, another MVP arrived in Baltimore in a trade with the Cincinnati Reds, setting the stage for the most exhilarating postseason stretch in Orioles history.
The Robinson boys, Frank and Brooks, whose back-to-back homers started the Orioles rolling yesterday, have been team leaders all season long.
Before the 66 season, Orioles have been a hard-charging team. The big trade is made with Cincinnati, and Frank Robinson comes to Baltimore. In that moment, did you think that was going to be the difference maker for the Orioles?
I really didn't know. I knew Frank was a great player, but I really didn't realize how great he was till he got here and won the Triple Crown. But he fit right into our club.
The outfield around to the left to Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter. Long drive to left field. Way back. Hit back. Home run.
He went out and became the Triple Crown winner. And we had 3 guys that year that drove in 100 runs. Boog drove in 100 and something. I drove in 100. And I think Frank drove in 140 something. But when you have 3 guys driving in 100 runs, you're going to win a lot of games.
And a lot of recognition. In 1966, the trio of Frank, Brooks, and Boog finished first, second, and third, respectively, in the American League's MVP voting. The league's best players placed their focus on making the Orioles its best team. And they did it by creating an organizational culture that propelled Baltimore to its first World Series appearance and title.
No one was bigger than anyone else. There was no what you call superstars here. It's just that some of us had better years than others at the time. But we played and thought and felt for each other as a team. And that's what made this in this organization so special to all of us, basically. It was the people here and the way we felt for each other.
We just loved each other, and we just were one big family. And to win a World Series, that was the first for Baltimore and the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me.
1966, 4 straight over the Dodgers. You beat Koufax and Drysdale. And I have to get to the bottom of this. I know you've talked about it over the years, but how high did you jump going for McNally after the ball was caught in left field?
Meanwhile, the celebration in the infield is just as wild. A mad, swirling mass of delirious Orioles. It's the first sweep for the American League since 1950.
I get a lot of people who ask me about that. And of course, all my children think it's fake jumping or something. But it was pretty exciting, you know, to go out there and be the underdogs and win 4 straight, something we didn't expect. But I really think the first game meant a lot to us, because Frank and Don Drysdale, they were real enemies, believe me, because Drysdale had drilled Frank a few times, and Frank didn't like him, and Drysdale didn't like Frank. So it was quite a show, but he hit a 2-run homer in the first game, and I was batting fourth that particular series, and I hit another home run, went further than Frank's, I always say.
Drysdale pitches and again makes it too good, and Tommy Davis just watches this one go. It's another home run, even longer than Frank Robinson.
We led 3-0, and that was really a key for us, I think. It pumped us up a little, and we had terrific pitching, and we won 4 straight. But what a thrill. That's your dream when you sign I always thought about it when I was playing American Legion ball. What about it? Getting to the big leagues, winning the pennant, winning the playoffs, and before that, no playoffs. And winning the World Series, I don't care if that ever happened, I'd be satisfied.
Brooks' first World Series win wouldn't be his last.
I played in 4, and the 2 we were favored in, we lost. The 2 we were underdogs, we won.
When we come back, Brooks reflects on the World Series run of 1969, 70, and 71.
Magic mitt of Brooks Robinson, destined for a place of honor in baseball's Hall of Fame, must be lathered for another workout, and the fans sound off.
The most fabulous baseball player I've ever seen. Fantastic. Does it every summer. I get here in May and I watch him right through to September. Been doing it for 12 years. This is the first time I've been up here, first time I've seen him play, and I think it's fantastic.
He's the greatest.
It's only one thing that they didn't say, that Brooks Robinson belonged in heaven, not here on the ground, because the way he plays third, I've never seen nothing like it.
The Orioles' second World Series title in 1970 came literally at the hands of Brooks Robinson, whose defensive show at third base and clutch hitting earned him World Series MVP honors and nationwide admiration.
Well, it was all Brooks Robinson. 80% of Brooks Robinson. We had 2 left-handed pitchers that knew if they got the hitters to hit them on the ground, that either Belanger or Brooksy would make the plays and throw them out of first base. And I don't think anybody ever had a series like Brooks Robinson did then. He put on the show of all shows that year.
In the 70 series, everybody was and on about the plays that he made defensively. And me as a spectator, I'm saying, well, what's the big deal? I see him do it all year long. He makes those plays. It's no big deal.
I've heard from a lot of teammates of yours who weren't that impressed by your performance winning MVP of that World Series, because they said, we saw him do that every day at third base.
Well, I was impressed doing it myself, because I've never had a game or a series like that in my history.
Fair ball. Great play by Robinson. Look at that. Great day in the morning. What a play.
Just a remarkable play. That's one of the best plays you'll ever see a third baseman make in a World Series game. And he made some great ones last year against the Mets.
Playing left field, I remember one time I told him, I said, Brooks, I'm watching you. If you miss the ball, I'll kill you, because I'm just watching you and not backing you up.
I knew that I was going to get a lot of business. In fact, I told Belanger, I said, we are going to get a lot of business this series, because they had guys like Tony Perez, Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, and I just knew they would get a lot of business. And I was just in the right place at the right time. You know, you play where you think they might hit it, and they did. And I was just glad it ended in 5 games, because I knew I couldn't keep that up. But it was a once-in-a-lifetime series, and for me.
You did okay at the plate in that series as well.
I sure did. Yeah, we really took advantage of their pitching.
The Orioles outscored the Reds 33-20 in the 5-game series, and Robinson went 9 for 21 with 2 homers and 6 runs batted in.
He was a heck of a hitter. Brooks was a heck of a hitter, and when you talk to the guys that played with him, a little bit like Eddie Murray, he was at his best in the big games in the clutch situation.
One of the best clutch hitters. You know, you'd have 2 outs, you know, 2 runs down, he'd hit a single to center. Or you needed an RBI, you know, hit a nice crisp line drive to the other field.
I hit a home run in the first game off of a changeup, and we won 4 in a row, or 4 out of 5, and that was the biggest thrill. I said, I don't care if we never win another one, but of course when you win one, you're ready to go for it again.
The 1970 championship was sandwiched between 2 World Series losses. First, as the heavily favored team in 1969 versus the New York Mets, and again in 1971 against the Pittsburgh Pirates in a 7-game series.
You know, I played in 4, and the 2 we were favored in, we lost. The 2 we were underdogs, we won. But the Mets, we didn't hit. I got 1 hit 19 times at bat, and overall we didn't drive any runs. They had pretty good pitching. We beat Seaver here the first game, then we lost 4 in a row. But they just outplayed us. They deserved to win. And the one that was disappointing is losing to Pittsburgh, winning 2 here and then losing 3 in a row out there. I hit a sacrifice fly in the 9th or 10th inning of the 6th game, and Frank scored and we won. And then we lost the next game. Roberto Clemente was simply a terrific player. He belongs with the Mantles and the Mays, the Franks. He was that great a player.
Coming up.
I don't like to call you fans. I like to call you friends. I've been here since 1955. That's a long time, but I've loved every minute of it.
Brooks reflects on the fans of Baltimore.
Brooks has got it. Oh, what a great play. Oh, not many third basemen in the world can make that one for you.
Just beyond center field in the confines of Camden Yards stand 6 bronze statues honoring the legends who built Orioles baseball. Brooks Robinson's was the last to be unveiled.
And it's about his defense.
And it depicts his extraordinary career with simplicity. There's a solid stance awaiting a chance at the hot corner, a subtle smile encapsulating his joy for the game, the love for his teammates, and gratitude for the fans who cheered him on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I know Paul Blair, the last 6 or 7 years we played together, he'd always say, well, when's your next Brooks Robinson Day? Every year. I don't like to call you fans. I like to call you friends. You have been so wonderful to me and my wife since I came to Baltimore back in 1955. I just want to thank all of you.
How many people in this town have come up to you saying, my name is Brooks, my parents named me after you?
I have a lot of little Brookses running around.
Is that not the best tribute? Is that not the biggest compliment?
That's wonderful.
Brooks had a Brooks of his own, the oldest child in a family that includes 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and his wife Connie.
Above all, I thank God for my life and for sending me an angel into my life over a half a century ago. That angel has been my beautiful wife, Connie. She has stood by me with total love, devotion, and endurance throughout our marriage.
From statue ceremonies to Hall of Fame inductions and every Brooks Robinson Day in between, baseball fans sought to thank Brooks Robinson for his impact on the game and on them. But Robinson's true greatness is shown in the way he shared his gratitude with the people eager to give him their own. It's in part what makes Robinson's baseball legacy as solid as the bronze statue that forever stands in his adopted hometown of Baltimore.
That is Baltimore. And playing in that great city for my entire Major League career. I share this day today with my adopted hometown because the people of that town have supported Brooks Robinson not only on the good days, but also on the bad days. I shall do what I can to continue to make this great game of baseball and this world finer and better. This is a day for my giving thanks, and this is a life from which I want to give back. Thank you.